My little brother, James, a tween, and I, a nearly adult male, live with our older sister, Eva, who is 26. James and I were removed from our mom when I was 10, and Eva did everything she could to keep my brother and me out of the system. I think it was because she was worried we'd be separated, and I know she was in foster care for a little bit when she was younger, too. So, I guess that was another reason she didn't want us to go in. She has guardianship of us now, and the adoption process is already going through. So, today we were having a family dinner at a relative's house, and some people from our mom's side of the family, aunts, uncles, and cousins, etc., were there with us. My aunt ended up making a big deal about the fact that Eva had James, and me help with some of the prep for dinner. She said something like, "You shouldn't be bossing them around. They're not your kids, and you're not their mother." Before anyone could respond, I said, "Well, we haven't been your sister's kids for like 7 years now. So who do you think was doing her job instead?" My aunt got mad, and then eventually, everyone started arguing, so dinner was ruined. A few of my cousins even texted me afterward and said so, and pretty much everyone went home. Eva told me that it was not my responsibility to defend her, and then she said she was sorry for the situation with our aunt. I feel bad because I made Eva feel bad, and because according to most of our family, I ruined the occasion with what I said. They think that it wasn't the place or time for me to bring up my mother's situation, even if it was just in response to what my aunt was saying. I didn't mean to ruin dinner or anything, but if I was out of line, then I'd apologize. Am I the idiot? Edit. No, one in my mom's family helped my sister out when she was 19 and suddenly responsible for 2 kids, and honestly, I don't know why. Even when Eva was a kid and she was taken from our mom temporarily, our relatives were given the option to keep her out of a foster home and let her stay with them, but none of them took her in. I can't imagine what my life would have been like if she wasn't there to fill in where a mother fell short. She's the best sister I could have ever asked for, to be honest, and I'm glad she'll officially be my parent soon. Not the idiot. Your aunt was out of line to comment on what your sister asked you to do, and then she couldn't handle the truth when you spoke up. Too bad for her. Your sister's right that it wasn't your responsibility to defend her, but it was the right and honorable thing to do, in my opinion. Congrats on your impending adoption. Your sister sounds like a gem. You're an awesome brother, and your sister's done an excellent job raising you. The family is wrong. You didn't ruin anything. I'm amazed that people who would have let Eva and the two of you rot in the system were even invited to a family Thanksgiving. They sure don't act like family or even friends. God bless you and your siblings. It sounds like your family's lashing out from guilt. Not one of them could bother to take in one child when your mother had been removed as a guardian, and yet when history repeated itself, she took not one child, but 2 at the age of 19. I imagine it galls them all the tiny excuses they made for themselves about why they couldn't take her in, or lies, simply because she did it. She made it work. Anna is jealous of how well the sister is raising the brothers. She's also projecting guilt for not stepping up to help. Her comments went straight for the jugular. They were meant to hurt and diminish the sister for being a better person. It's pretty aggressive behavior if you really think about how targeted that comment was. I would have added, "Please explain where you were, Auntie dearest, when sister became our guardian. Were you too busy being a useless, judgmental idiot while this girl raised a 10-year-old and a toddler while being a teen herself?" Also, the prep for dinner is a weird thing for her to have a problem with in the first place. Oh no, a teenager and a tween are actually helping prepare dinner. How scandalous. Respond to anyone who tells you you were out of line that you were simply correcting your aunt. No further info or justifications. One standard line: play rewind, replay. I'll start at the beginning. My ex-husband was a good father, but a terrible husband. I divorced him when my oldest was 14 and youngest was 10. Well, he ended up spiraling, and the kids were exposed to that. I was blamed for ruining Dad. He got better after a few years, but ended up doing it again when he learned I was dating. So the kids kept trying to get me not to date since it'll affect their dad. It was an awful time since, to the kids, I was still responsible for what he did and reacted to things. In the end, I just kept my dating on the low end, which wasn't hard since I wasn't introducing the kids to the men. Anyway, all I had to change was not posting on social media. Also, yes, I sent the kids to therapy. They all stopped when they hit 18, or my middle child refused to talk, so I pulled them. The oldest is now 25, and the youngest is 21, and I got proposed to. I sat them down and told them they were not happy and were angry that I was doing this. Today had lots of talk later, and I thought it was good. The wedding's in 2 weeks. I got a text from all the kids saying they won't be at my wedding, that they need to support Dad during this time. I had enough and texted them that if they don't go to my wedding, it'll damage our relationship, and I will not be attending their own weddings when they get married. They were angry, and it started an argument, and all of them thought I was a huge jerk. I truly hate that I can't do anything that makes me happy, since it'll affect my ex. Edit. Kids were going to go. My daughter was actually going to play the piano for when I walked down. Now they're not. I divorced him since he was a horrible husband, never helped me in any way, and to me, I was a personal bang mate. They blame me for his actions since I set him off with the divorce or dating. I never speak about him due to this reason. I kept my mouth closed, and when something bad happened to him, my go-to response was that I'm sorry to hear that for him. I made sure to keep my feelings about him close to my chest. I kind of want to tell them every horrible thing he did in our marriage, but all that would do would hurt the kids since they love him. Not the idiot. They're adults now and should realize that you're under no obligation to stay single to appease your ex. They're not the only people who've had parents divorce, and yet it seems like they can't get over it. And if after all this time your ex is still emotionally impacted by your personal life, then he needs to get on with his life and get help, because it's not healthy. Also, assuming that they want you to go to their weddings in the future, are they expecting you to go solo and not bring your husband? You're allowed to move on. You don't need to put your personal life on hold just because it doesn't sit well with your ex. Your children need to be supportive of both their parents. They're no longer brat teenagers. They're adults now. Ex's parental alienation campaign against you seems to have been pretty effective, and he's made the kids believe that you're responsible for his happiness and well-being. It's time to tell them the truth about their father. This absolutely sounds like parental alienation, and it sounds like Dad is a huge narcissist if he can't let go of his ex-wife and he spirals anytime she does something to make herself happy. He has manipulated your children to try and get them to control you. The only way to solve this problem is for your children to see and understand what your ex is doing and why it's so unreasonable. Unfortunately, it might take a very long time for your kids to find clarity. Good luck. Update. I realized I'm okay letting them go. I can't do it anymore if they go. I have hope to fix this relationship. If not, I'm just done. I can't keep playing this game. It's for everything anytime I have something good. His feelings have to come first. I can't do that anymore. It hurts too much. You convinced me to lay it all out for them. So I did. Send them every single thing. It's over. Thanks for everyone that tried to help. I know this was a no-win situation. I, 19, am allergic to dogs. Nothing serious, just very irritating. My parents are older, and while I live here, I essentially take care of the house's upper floors instead of paying rent. About a month ago, my parents got a dog from a friend. He's a little dog, not sure what breed, and generally an okay dog. My dad's best friend. Up until now, it's been rough but okay. I take allergy meds, and that mostly helps. Still itchy, sniffly, and feeling generally unwell, but otherwise okay. He also chases my cat, but she stays upstairs mostly, anyway. Well, a few days ago, he discovered our laundry room. He found my clothes and underwear, played with them, and my dad got them off of him and put them back in the laundry without telling me. As you can imagine, when I put it on yesterday, there was a whole situation. I'm itchy, sore, and bleeding in some spots. I've tossed the underwear, but I'm at a point where I'm so tired of this dog. I cried to my friend about it, and she came to me yesterday evening with her mom and said I could move in with them as long as I paid rent and I can bring my cat. So, this morning, I told my parents that they get rid of the dog, or I would move out, and they'll have to take care of their own house. They started by apologizing and asking me to reconsider. When I denied, they essentially said I expected them to pick between their children. I was a little insulted that I had the same value as a dog they'd had for a month and called them bad parents. I'm in pain. I can't enjoy my own home, and they still want to keep the dog. I went to bed and told them to choose by tomorrow, but I haven't been able to sleep for worry. I feel so bad. I spoke to a different friend who said it was uncalled for, and I should understand. I wouldn't want to give up my cat ever. I'd die for her, but I can't keep living like this. And I also feel awful for making them choose. Either way, it sucks for someone. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Choosing between their children? What on earth? It's a dog, and they can't even be bothered with the basic decency of washing your clothes when the dog touches them? If you're bleeding, this is far more than a mild irritation. They're living in a dreamland if they expect you to put up with that. They are bad parents. I can't imagine being this cruel to my child. Get out and see how long they last without you. If they're okay with it, you know the answer. But if I were them, I'd rehome the dog, get the house deep cleaned, and apologize on my knees. I was a little torn at first, just because I get the idea of being attached to an animal. However, these are your parents, and when they took the dog in, they had to know you were allergic. They went ahead, knowing it would make you feel at best a bit yucky, and at worst it would make you feel like a complete idiot. I disagree. You are the idiot for giving an ultimatum. Give up a family member, or I'm moving out. Grow up. It's their house. They can get a dog. You're an adult. You don't have to live with your parents. Just move out without the drama. Why are you making it all about yourself? You're 19. Stop trying to control your parents. You're going to move out eventually, and the dog will be good for them. Did we read the same story? She's there to help her parents and doesn't have an issue moving out. Her parents are the ones who need her to sacrifice her comfort to take care of their house. And for the parents to say that the dog means more to them than the well-being of their child? Jesus, I don't feel like Opie did anything wrong in this situation. Honey, it sounds like your parents' plan to evict you is working perfectly. I, a 50-year-old female, have 2 kids, Laura, a 26-year-old female, and Chris, a 29-year-old male. Laura is an interior designer, and Chris is an RN. I met Laura's girlfriend of 6 months, Heather, a 28-year-old female, in person around 2 weeks ago at a family gathering. Heather was absolutely delightful. She was polite, charming, kind, and she obviously had hard eyes around Laura. So, we all immediately got to like her. She also hit it off with my mother, Ruth, a 75-year-old female, really well. My mom got sick the other day. She was breathless, pale, and kept saying her chest was hurting. Heather's training to be a cardiologist, so after calling the ambulance, she was the first person I called. She came to the hospital with Laura, who helped us throughout the whole process and only left after everything was sorted out and Mom was well. Chris was pretty mad at me for calling Heather because he said meeting a person once isn't an indication to call them during an emergency. He said I should apologize for disturbing Heather or get her a thank you card or something, which I certainly will. He told me I had crossed the line and I should have called him first instead of Heather. Was I wrong to call her? I talked to Laura, and she said Heather didn't mind the whole thing at all and was happy to help. She also said Heather was glad she was already being treated as part of the family. I will 100% get her a thank you gift. Not the idiot. You reached out to the most qualified person in an emergency, and you've heard nothing from Laura or Heather indicating she was uncomfortable. Chris might be used to people asking him for medical opinions and protecting Heather proactively, or he might be jealous of Heather's qualifications. I would reach out to Laura and ask her if you made Heather uncomfortable, just to be aware of her boundaries in the future. But in this moment of crisis, you did nothing wrong. A cardiologist trumps a nurse in this case. Yeah, it would have been better to call Laura and ask her to bring Heather, but in an emergency, your brain doesn't always function. I get that. Glad your mother's feeling better. Honestly, it sounds like the RN is feeling a little, but hurt now that there's a doctor in the family. Isn't this Chris's grandmother? Like, of course, he's upset. Not to mention this whole thread is obsessed that she's a brand new resident. Like, what would a new cardiologist do that an experienced nurse couldn't? She wouldn't have any EKG, no labs, no vitals, just signs of and symptoms, which any ER nurse could recognize just as quickly. Not to mention that Chris most likely has thousands of hours of patient experience, whereas Heather has not passed her cardiology board and, based on her age, has very little MD experience. Chris knows his grandmother better and could probably offer better support to her than a stranger. My husband, a 30-year-old male, and I invited my family to stay with us until they could find a new home. Their house burnt down, and they became homeless. This was my mom, 51, and my dad, 54, and my grandmother, 72. At first, it wasn't a problem. We have the room, and everyone besides my grandmother can care for themselves. It did make things a little crowded with 5 adults, 2 kids, a toddler, and a kindergartner, and our dog, but we managed since it wasn't supposed to be for that long. Things spiraled quickly, and I ended up having to care for everyone from the moment I wake up each morning. It's nothing but, "Op, can you do this? Op, can you do that? Op, you should do this or that." I don't even have the chance to sit down and eat until everyone's in bed and forget time with just my husband and kids. It got worse a few days ago when we found out our dog was very sick and needed round-the-clock care for a while. The final straw was when my mom complained that the house wasn't clean enough. I sat everyone down and told them I needed a break, and I was now expecting everyone to pull their weight around the house. I wasn't asking anyone to do any chores, just to pick up after themselves if they needed something while I was busy, to get it themselves. This started a screaming match with my mom, and her calling me a lazy witch because they were guests. I screamed back that yes, this was my house, but I'm not their servant. My parents are now not speaking to me, and my family's saying I was way out of line for losing it the way I did because that's my parents. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Kick them out. Parents are not people who scream at you, abuse your hospitality, and give you the silent treatment. They do not belong in your home. Give them a warning, but be firm and stick by it, and stop catering to them in the meantime. They should absolutely have chores, and you should not be cooking, cleaning, babysitting these grown entitled adults. By the way, they aren't guests. They're using your hospitality because they're homeless. Those are very different things. Wait, do you mean the moment they became guests, they lost the ability to do anything for themselves? That's unique. Most folks visiting, not to mention having a free place to stay, do what they can to not be a burden. But here's your mind, mom expecting white glove service. Lord, I'd have thrown her out when she called me a lazy witch. It's time for them to find a new place to live and some serious boundaries put in place afterward. Whenever I'm a guest at anybody's house, I make sure to tidy up after myself and try not to ask for much. This behavior is kind of appalling. Your mom is way out of line. They are not guests that she'd be treated like a 3 to 4 day visitor. They should be cooking meals, cleaning the house, and trying to make your and your husband's lives easier because they are a huge disruption to your life. Tell them if they don't do a 180 and start treating you with respect and appreciation, they're not welcome. The second a guest screams at me and my home, they're out on the street. It would be Christ himself, and I'd tell them to get out.